This, for me, yeah, you don't even understand. Like, this is like, was my favourite PC game, like, throughout my childhood, and... How's it going, everyone? This is Dan at Colossal Vids, and welcome to a brand new gaming video. Now, I've been wanting to do a gameplay video of this particular game for a long time. It is my absolute favourite FMV game of all time. Anyone that knows me, that knows that I'm a big fan of the Philips CDI, will know that I do love Burn Cycle as well, which is on the CDI and also on PC as well. But there's just something about this game that even tips it over Burn Cycle for me. I just love everything about it. There isn't a single thing about this game that I don't enjoy. I love how atmospheric it is. I absolutely adore the music. The graphics for its time are brilliant. And the whole scenery, and especially playing it on headphones, how it just naturally creeps you out. It's just fantastic. It really, really is. I started playing this game when I was a little kid, and I went back to it over the years. And something quite special happened quite recently, and it also caused me to not only be able to play the game again all these years later, but actually complete it as well. And that was for the first time ever, because when I was a kid I never actually completed it, I never got that far. It is a game called Shivers. There we go, that's a bit better. It's a game called Shivers. Now, it's basically a game that centres around a haunted, fictitious museum by a guy called Professor Windlenot, who builds it. But there's problems that kind of happen in construction, and it got delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed and never properly fully opened. And people were like, you know, constantly asking about when's it going to open, when's it going to open, and it sort of never really did. Now, you basically play a teenager in the game, and you've been chatting amongst your friends about this haunted museum and how it's really spooky and all the sort of the spooky, scary kind of stories that go along with it. And so one night, your friends dare you to spend the night in the museum. So the game begins with your friends dropping you off outside this museum, and they lock you in. And they basically say to you, you know, go into the museum, try and find a way in and explore it, spend the night there, which will then comprise of you trying to solve riddles and puzzles and sort of get more immersed into the storyline. And then when you complete the game, as I've now found out because I've since completed it recently, they come back and sort of let you out again. So you have to find a way into the museum to start with, and then basically, long story short, you have to find what are called Ixupi. Now, these are kind of evil spirits that were basically released from their vessels by two teenagers that actually sort of got into the museum like 15 years prior to where the game starts. And there was two teenagers called Merrick and Beth. They actually find a way into the museum, and they find these different vessels in different parts of the museum, and they actually let the evil spirits out of them by mistake. Like, basically Merrick picks one up and takes the top off, and one of the evil spirits escapes, but he doesn't think anything of it. He doesn't think it's like anything untoward. So they end up releasing all of them, and they escape into the museum. I nearly said hotel then. They escape into the museum, and they basically, you know, wreak havoc. So then your task is to then find them all again. You have to find like the top and the bottom half, fit them back together because they're scattered everywhere, and then once you've fit them all together, you collect all 10, and then you sort of complete the game. But unfortunately, the two teenagers, they do die as well. They sort of perish in the end. Without spoiling the story, I don't want to say sort of how you discover, because I'll end up spoiling it, but they perish, and so does the archaeologist who sort of built the museum, Professor Windlenot. So, shall we have a little look? So shall we have a little look at Shivers, all right? This is my childhood. If you've played this game, there's very few games, I think, where they can make you like overexcited, where you're like, you just need to calm down because you feel like you're literally going to have a heart attack. Like, you just need to calm down. This, for me, yeah, you don't even understand. Like, this is like, was my favourite PC game, like throughout my childhood, and now that I can play it all over again and to have completed it the other night as well, just blows my mind. So this is Shivers 1995, played on Windows 10. Let's do it. So this is a point and click game as well, so I'm not using a controller, it's done by mouse and keyboard. So, without further ado, let's start up Shivers. And I'll let you watch the FMV opening as well so you can see what it's truly like.
Name your game.
Oh, hang on, yeah, that's true. Right, so I'm going to say nothing else now, but just enjoy, and this is proper 1995 FMV acting at its finest.
This stair was kind of your idea, you know. But I'm glad I'm me out here and not you in there.
I think I've heard those same loving words before. Like the time you guys dared me to spend the night at that cemetery. Oh. You know, if you die in the museum tonight, I'll make sure she gives a eulogy at your funeral. We never would have made you spend the night here if you hadn't have talked about this place so much.
Yeah, we thought you'd been kind of, well, obsessed, thinking you hearing voices and stuff coming from the museum and all. Too weird for me.
Hey, you know, maybe they're the voices of those kids who disappeared 15 years ago.
Right, the police never found the bodies. Or the killer.
Yeah, and my sister, you know, Julie, the one in college, says Professor Windlenot went insane. He viciously murdered them and then buried their bodies in the basement of the museum. Well, what if he's hiding in that creepy museum right now, just waiting for another victim?
Yeah, and the ghost of his victims are calling out, warning you.
Ring, ring. Hello? I think it's for you.
That was just a dog howling.
There was something more than that.
Well, I didn't hear anything. I think this place is just getting us all spooked.
Are you sure you want to go through with this? You could back out at any time.
But of course, if you did, you'd probably never live down the chicken jokes.
That's true.
You'll be all right. Come on, I don't want to be late for the movie. We'll be back at dawn to let you out.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Later.
Peace.
So it really sets the scene, it really, really does. But again, because I've played it for so many years, it's nice to have a game that I played when I was really, really young, and to be able to experience it again today on Windows 10 when it was a Windows 95 game. Just as I say, it's just literally insane. So obviously that's just setting the game up. You obviously move around. I'm using the mouse, as I say, as opposed to a controller. You kind of click about. The first thing you sort of tend to see is this kind of horrible kind of looking head, if you like, or face on the wall. You'll see the number 29. Now that's really significant, and you'll see why in a bit, but that, if you remember that number, that'll really help you out. So 29, all right? So these are like the outer exteriors of the museum. So you can go this way to start with. Professor Windlenot's Museum of the Strange and Unusual, opening soon. As I say, it never truly opened because it kept getting pushed back and delayed even further, and then it never actually opened in the end. So you'll notice as well that as you're walking around certain parts of the grounds, that you'll see different shapes and different colours, and again, they're important as well. Again, just the wind in the background, it just sounds so realistic, especially for a game from 1995. I honestly do believe this was ahead of its time, I really do. It's so authentic, it's not cheesy, it's not too over the top, it's just, do you know what I mean? It's just right, in my opinion. It just works, it really, really works. And if they ever remastered Shivers for like this generation, yeah, it would just be, I'm sure it would be phenomenal. I really do, as long as they did it right. So you find a door at the top which doesn't open. but you'll see there's like these almost like rainbows on each end, and that's a shape that becomes, well, these become significant in a little while. And obviously the colour, you know, the sort of dark grey sort of colouring, that becomes significant as well. So if we carry on a bit further down again, because you can't really go anywhere else up there, it's just a bit of a dead end. See, there's another one. And that's on a kind of like a darkish orangey kind of colour-ish, sort of. And carry on down. See, apart from the wind, it is eerily quiet. There's no one else around. You're completely locked in. Your friends have deserted you. You have no idea if anything else or anyone else is about. Especially if you've never played this game before. You don't know that there's nothing else around. There could be anything. Start to hear crickets as well. Again, keep going. Another significant. Keep going again. Then eventually you come to this sort of dead end. You'll see these like stepping stones that are currently under the water. So you need to lift those stepping stones out of the water. So the first thing you need to do is open up this box. Now, do you remember I said about that number? Do you remember it? Yes, 29. So we're going to go 0, 2, 9, because there's 3 numbers, but we want, 2, 9. Now, I did this the other day, I did it right first time, but you can imagine now I'm not going to be able to do it right first time. You only get 7 tries as well. So you just basically have to move them around. There are certain moves that you can't make where you'll get a no entry sign to say, look, actually you can't do that. Like, for example, there, it's too far. But a lot of them you can do. Oh. Okay, fair enough. Maybe I did do it right first time. So now, of course, you can hear them opening up. Yeah, come away from there. And there they are. So obviously now we can go across. Now, I actually, you might think this is a bit weird, but I actually really like this ominous kind of like chant that you can hear at the moment. It is proper creepy, and if you played this like in the dark, like I reckon it would creep anyone out. But I actually really like it, and I think because I've heard it for years, I'm so used to it now. But I really like it, and you can get the soundtrack actually on YouTube as well. Someone's uploaded all the tracks, just the audio, and it's on there as well. And it's just yeah, proper creepy, but it works. It's effective. So there's your shapes down there. So you know I said about, you know, you need to remember what the colours they were. Here it is. So I didn't actually show you all of them. There is another one there. There you go. So if I remember rightly, that's that one. That's the right colour. This one, I believe, if I remember rightly, was that colour. This kind of dark grey we said was the, remember the like kind of rainbows. The darker brown was the on the park bench. So that will be that one. There you go. Down the stairs. A little kind of box on the wall, and if you press the button, it actually turns the lights on, and then you can start going places. And this is where the music starts, and it's actually really good. So you pull that down, and here we go. It's just that kind of slow thudding. Really, really cool. So then all you do now is just try and find your way through. down the stairs. And eventually come to another door where there's a boat. Now the other thing, as well as the bats as well, the other thing is that also there are certain items in the game that if you read them or pick them up, they actually save as what are called flashbacks. Now they're really important because as you start to solve puzzles later on in the game, the answers are actually in some of the items that you pick up. So if you've picked up a certain amount of books and they've saved as flashbacks, and if you flick through them, you'll see there might be pictures or, you know, odd looking drawings, and then you suddenly get to a puzzle later that requires you to put a drawing together or a puzzle, and you think, I've seen that in a book. Rather than trying to go back in the game to that particular room or, you know, a particular place where you found the book in the beginning, you can just pause the game, click on what's called flashbacks, which will be in the menu, and they'll all be in a list, and you can just literally view them whenever you want to, which is really handy, but you've got to have picked it up and at least flicked through it first. So the first one, because I think some people may have gone straight on the boat and that's it, but if you turn round, you'll see, hang on a second, there you go, you'll see a corpse on the floor, which I think is actually Professor Windlenot actually, and if you pick up the book, Egyptian Hieroglyphs Explained, it was originally in the library in the museum, but he grabbed it and sort of took it with him and then obviously perished as well, so it's kind of next to his body. And if you flick through it, these become really important later. They answer a puzzle, and also this answers a puzzle as well. And there's also a page that's been torn out, and you actually do figure out what that's meant to say later on in the game as well. And now I've picked it up, although it goes back down there and I haven't physically got it on myself, it saves as a flashback, so when I'm in the museum, when I need to look through that, I can whenever I want to, alright? So then we get in the boat. Now to start the boat off, it's quite simple to be fair, you just literally, you'll see that that side doesn't do anything, so then you just turn around, you do the same with this one, so you lower that one, and you raise this one. And then once you now turn it, it'll start to move. You'll notice that an Ixupi, an evil spirit, will fly out of the water whilst you're on the boat to get to the other side and will take some of your life essence. You cannot avoid that. You have to just let that happen. You literally can't stop that from happening. But that's the only time that happens. Later on in the game, you can actually avoid being, you know, lunged at by an Ixupi as long as you stay away from certain areas where you can hear noises. But this is the only time in the game where you can't avoid being sort of hit by one. So here we go, you're going to start to go across the river now. The music comes back and it's very creepy again. Why this is not on Steam, because a lot of FMV games are on there, I do not know. There you go. So I mean, you can't avoid that. You cannot avoid that. That's about it. So once you get to the other side, obviously step off, and then you'll notice that there is another vessel here, and this starts another FMV video, alright? And this is where Professor Windlenot comes out and starts to give you some advice and stuff. But again, this is proper FMV 95 at its best.
15 long years in this prison. You, get out. Do not meddle in things beyond your understanding. You will pay for your curiosity. You are in grave danger. They are so evil. Already some of your life essence has been stolen. I was too old, not fast enough. The Ixupi are so evil. It is imperative to find all the vessels, because it seems only when they are united with their talismans do they have any power. My plan was to use them on the Ixupi before any more of them escape into the world. I believe they cannot resist the vessels as long as they're with the talismans and you approach directly. This vessel here is of no use to you, however. Its Ixupi is the one who robbed me of my essence, and he has escaped into the world. And they've ruined my museum!
but again, not cringy acting, not over the top. It's got the right amount of creepiness to it, and it's serious and it's done properly. Do you know what I mean? For a game of that kind of age now, it was still done very well. So yeah, and it's just very, very ominous, and I just love it. I absolutely love it. So yeah, you can actually have a little look as well at the actual pattern on the side of it, and you'll see where he's like been counting down the days and stuff. So, but just so, I mean, the FMV videos in this game, they're just brilliant. They're just done so well. Another one of my favourite bits of music as well. It's actually the main Shivers theme, this is. So then once you've found your way through that corridor, you'll see what's basically an elevator, all right? Now, these spots here, they're again significant, all right? Notice the layout of them, they're in a diagonal line, all right? Now, to get into the elevator, you have to look at another box on the wall, and you'll see that there's some sort of pictures here. You've got some other squares that kind of try and block you, and you've got some arrows around the outside. Now, again, you just got to replicate that particular diagonal line in that kind of angle with these shapes. Some of them go like one at a time, some two, some even three, all right? And all you do, you basically just arrange them. See, that wants to go two, but that's in the way, so you can't do it. Same with that one, all right? So it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's not the hardest either. There you go, that's two. So again, like, if you can't quite get it downwards, try obviously lengthways. Let's have a look. No, that's not going to work. No, it needs to be a two. So there you go. And then what I'll do, I'll put that one that way. There you go. And that one that way. So sometimes you have to really think and go around another direction, but eventually you'll get it. And then you press up. And off you go. But all the sound effects, they're so clear and they're so authentic, do you know what I mean? They're just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.